Hey guys, this is Tor from TC here at the 2017 NAMM show with Mark Lettieri, incredible guitar player from Snarky Puppy. And we've been doing a tone print, which has been a ton of fun. And I was actually, and after that you just did a loop.
We did.
I actually, that was
weird.
that's kind of how I even found out about you, because you've been throwing out a lot of loops on Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that, and it's all incredible. And
thank you, man.
How did you start doing that stuff? Because I think that's where a lot of people kind of first caught onto you.
Well, I picked up a Ditto looper at Guitar Center, and because a friend of mine had told me that it was a good practice tool and it was simple. Yeah. Because prior to that, my only experience with looping pedals were these gigantic computers, spaceships. Yeah, and I too many knobs and I freak out. So I was like, well, cool. This thing has one knob. I can record and it feels good. I don't know if that makes sense, but like there's a feel in this pedal to where you can kind of get with the rhythm of how things line up, and it kind of makes it easy to sync with yourself. It's hard to explain. You just have to sort of try it. But so I just started doing these little 15-second, 30-second loops of just funk jams and various other little progressions I was coming up with, and just throwing them on Instagram, and people were really digging it. They're like little Skittles. You just and ooh, that tastes good. That's nice. I like that.
It's cool, and I mean your timing is impeccable and all
thanks,
the
man.
stuff. So it's just great to hear. I think I really enjoyed it as well. So I mean, at least for me, that meant that I kind of went backwards. So it's like, I'll check out your solo stuff, which is incredible, and I'll check Snarky Puppy, which I've heard about but never really heard, and all of it is great.
Thanks.
And one of the things that I kind of find that kind of stand out is how incredibly versatile you are, because you can do the funk stuff, and you've been doing more of that kind of, the jazzy kind of, but also rock things. So have you always, listened to all sorts of different music and being able to kind of put that into your own style?
Yeah, I've just, I've been a student of guitar, I grew up listening to, all the greats, Jimmy and Eddie and Stevie and all those fellas, and it all sort of informed my playing early on, and then as I got older, I got into more jazz-oriented stuff and R&B and gospel and funk. Of course, Prince has been a huge influence, and guys like Jeff Beck, and so I think just as a guitarist and as a composer, I try to kind of like think about all those influences and then spit them out through my own kind of language, and it's just sort of a way of figuring out what I sound like. Yeah. But it's like I'm interested in so many different kinds of guitar that if I can try and play a little bit of each style somewhat authentically, or at least put my own spin on it, it makes playing music more fun, because I can do more stuff. I can play in a band like Snarky Puppy where we do a million different styles. And it's good to be versatile, but it's not necessary. It's just something that, if you are interested in lots of kinds of music, then you should pursue as much of it as you can. Yeah,
and also I think with you, it doesn't feel like you're playing one thing and then another thing and then another thing. It kind of blends together.
Well, that's good to hear. I guess I'm doing something right. I don't know.
So with all these different styles, and obviously this, being TC, so we have a bunch of guys who are pretty gear nerdy.
Sure.
Do you find, in terms of, guitars, amps, effects, that, is it tricky to kind of find something that works for all these different styles and stuff?
Not so well, I don't know. I should say, I mean, the TC stuff works for everything. So obviously I'm very thankful for that. But, for me, gear is like, it's got to sound good and it's got to be easy to figure out. Yeah. Here we have a reverb pedal with 4 knobs. Yeah. It's easy. Yeah. I have a loop pedal with 1 knob. Yeah. Simplicity is so important, because your average working player wants to be able to plug in and get a good sound, get their sound, and get the gig done. Yeah. Right. And so I'm happy that TC's making stuff that allows me to do that very easily. Like I was saying earlier, the Nova delay was the first product of yours that I got, because it was like, oh, cool, tap, and it's got a couple features. I can program stuff if I want, but I don't necessarily need to. And the BPMs are right there in big red letters, so I can always dial it into the click track. And I was like, well, this is no brainer, So stuff like that is, I get excited about easy stuff that helps me sound good.
And what about guitar and amp wise?
Oh, sure, man. Well, I mean, this is my baby, my Grosh. Swamp Ash body, maple neck. This is their NOS retro model.
Yep.
And I've kind of always been a Strat dude. I play tellies a lot. I do play some lovely hollow bodies as well. And I have a fair collection of some pretty good amps, and just kind of like each one has its own little special place, and each combination has its own.
Yeah. So you bring whatever you need for the gig.
I do. Yeah.
And just a specific thing, we kind of started on that, but then I was told to leave it for the actual interview.
Oh, well, here we are doing the actual interview.
Yeah. And the thing is, you're playing this little funk loops thing before, and I'm a Strat guy as well, I always enjoyed having a humbucker in the bridge because it makes the instrument more versatile. But what I always found was that kind of in-between sound is hard to get when you have a humbucker in the bridge.
Yes. Well, Don does a really cool thing where this tone knob at the bottom here is actually not a tone knob, it's a blend knob. And so what it does is just, like for example, I've got the neck pickup here selected, so if I blend this, or turn it all the way down, it blends in the humbucker. So for example, I have my neck pickup sound, which is like this. Oh, we got some good reverb going. I'll turn that down just a hair. Right, so, there's your neck sound. Roll that back. And that sound, that sort of like telly sound.
Yeah.
The first time I heard it, I think Prince was the first guy I ever heard do that.
Yeah.
And I had, this is a funny story.
Honer.
Yeah, it's a funny story, but I'm going to tell it to you. I had this old telly that a buddy of mine had given me, and the neck pickup didn't work. No, I'm sorry, the bridge pickup didn't work. So it was essentially a one pickup telly. And he was like, well, you can have it, man. I don't really need it, whatever. So I said, okay, cool. So I was playing this one pickup telly, and around the same time that I was discovering Prince, and then one day I was messing with something on the bridge, I think with a screwdriver, and I dropped the screwdriver into the pickup, and it hit it hard enough that it came back to life.
Oh!
And all of a sudden, my guitar now made this sound. I had that in-between telly Prince, and I was like, this is a revelation. I have to have this sound. Yeah. So even though I have a Strat, I needed to have this sound. So,
and you don't even split the humbucker, it's just...
You can, okay. Yeah. It just kind of makes it a little chimey, or a little... So that's a split, and then a little bit more mid-range action happening. So super flexible guitar, man. Love it.
Cool. So music-wise, what are you working on these days?
What am I working on these days? Well, I've got a few things with my trio coming up. We've got a load of Snarky puppy shows. We're going to Australia, we're going to New Zealand, we're going all over Europe in the spring. We have our own music festival happening, the Ground Up Music Festival, with David Crosby's going to be there, and Laura Mvula, I think Esperanza Spalding's going to be there, a whole bunch of folks. And then, I teach a lot of Skype lessons, do a lot of sessions when I can, and hopefully we'll start getting creative and writing a fourth solo record eventually.
That would be cool.
Yeah, hopefully we can get that. Maybe not this year, but I'll get the creative process started. So, yeah.
Well, best of luck with all of it, and thanks so much for dropping by.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, man.